What's up guys and welcome. You are watching Fazi Fitness. So guys, channel membership is now live. Link is in the description and the first comment. Do check it out. That would really help support the channel. The 6 times Classic Physique Olympia champion, Krizo Bumstead posted a throwback from his Olympia prep, posing like a men's physique competitor and teasing a comeback. And people have started losing their minds. So for the people who haven't been following Krizo's post-retirement journey, he has been going through a very hard time. Because for a guy who built up his entire career based on how godly he looked and his love for training and the sport, the inability to work out for 3 months straight, which I guess has happened this one and only time since he turned pro. This is such a battle for Krizo Bumstead, and I think all of you guys who work out on a daily basis, they can relate to that, how difficult it is not to work out. Now that being said, we all want to see Krizo Bumstead make a comeback, be it in any division, but the fact is the chances of that happening, they are very little. So where is Cbum recently? Well, he was spotted with Ors Klashinsky today, and they must have trained legs together, as that is the only muscle group that Krizo is able to train in these past few months, and that is gonna be the case for the foreseeable future as well. So how Krizo Bumstead would have done in the men's physique category? Well, the man is just too big for men's physique, and he just would not have made the weight cutoff. The only division where the fans want to see Krizo Bumstead after he dominated classic physique for 6 years straight, that is the men's open bodybuilding, especially after the way he showed up at Prague Pro last year. The thing is, Krizo himself, he rates his Prague Pro look his all-time favorite, and that will most probably be remembered as Krizo's last show as an active IPE pro. So wishing him a very speedy recovery, and hopefully very soon we're gonna see him back in that kind of physique that he wanted to have after retirement. We are now 4.5 weeks out of this year's mighty Pittsburgh Pro, and this is the first time the mutant Nick Walker started posting those insane selfies, the kind of ones he was posting a lot last year before the show, before the New York Pro. So with this angle, his shoulder to waist ratio, that looks kind of decent, and Nick has now entered in that phase of the prep where he's also changing very fast. So this was a different prep for the mutant in a sense, that he has always been more leaner at 6 weeks out mark, and the man is always very close to being contest ready at 4 to 5 weeks out mark, and that was always the case in the past. But they were aiming to bring his biggest and the most freaky version this time around in 2025, and we know he has been working with a totally new coach and a totally different strategy, where these guys wanna be ready on the day of the show and not at 4 weeks out mark. And I certainly hope that this works out for him. If Nick Walker finishes in the top 2, let's say behind Derek, that is still gonna be considered a win here for Nick Walker, especially by the fans, because him beating Martin Fitzwater, that is still a big win. Because even if he places top 2, he's losing to the reigning Arnold champion, a former Miss Olympia, and a guy who is probably one of the favorites to win the Olympia this year. And if he places top 2, that will set him up very nicely to battle it out for those top 3 or top 4 Olympia spots later this year. Because if he is really successful in beating a bigger version of Martin this time around, that really means he just had one show last year where he was kinda off, and the New York Pro last year, that is the show where Nick Walker lost most of his hype. So this is probably gonna be the most anticipated look of Nick Walker, as he has finally decided to stick to his guns. Because him and Matt Jensen, when these guys were working together, they just fought way too hard to fix his shape, and finally came to the realization that the only way to beat some of these top guys who are aesthetically more pleasing than him, who have better shape than him, that is to bring more mass, more freak factor, and just outmuscle all these guys on the stage. So just another 30 days to find out where Nick Walker is at right now in the men's open bodybuilding. Guys, we have a limited time offer. If you buy any flavor of Bloodshot, you are gonna get a free Dying Breed t-shirt. The discount code is on the screen right now, and use the code FAZI10 to get 10% extra discount. Up next, we have an update from Regan Grimes. So with a little more than 5 weeks to go till this year's New York Pro, Regan still looks pretty damn massive and very full, which by the way is an indication that his coach Stefan is still allowing him to eat plenty of food, and his calorie intake, that is still pretty high. Now for those of you guys who do not know, the case was totally different when he was in prep with some of his former coaches like Milos Sorsev, where he would go extremely low on calories and lose a lot of size and a lot of his wow factor and his fullness. So Regan has to do two difficult things for this upcoming New York Pro. He has to make sure he shows up big, because this is what is expected of him after taking one whole year off, actually more than 1 year. Because the last time he competed, that was at the Olympia back in 2023. And secondly, he needs to bring a better conditioning than what we saw from him at his last show, which by the way was the best showing of his entire pro career, where he placed top 9 in the world at the Olympia. Now there are some mixed feelings regarding Regan's potential. Many experts and legends of bodybuilding, they consider him Miss Olympia material, but the fans, they just do not agree with that notion. And fact of the matter is, the fans are also right, because Regan has been competing as a pro since 2017. And unless he makes one crazy ass transformation this year, it's still pretty hard to imagine that he can crack top 5 at the Olympia this year, let alone win the Olympia. Just look at the name, who was 5th last year. Can Regan beat Andrew Jacked? Because Andrew was in 5th place last year. In fact, the bigger challenge here for Regan, that is to earn his Olympia spot, because he has to beat guys like Nick Walker, Michael Krizo, possibly Martin, to win the New York Pro. So the last time Regan competed against Michael Krizo and also Nick Walker, they both comfortably beat him. So what are your thoughts on Regan? Will he be able to do something very magical with his current coach this time around? So the 2 times 212 former Olympia champion, Sean Torida, just announced that he paired up with John Jewett, and John is gonna be the one devising his workouts for this upcoming season ahead.
Kind of coming in here and trying to do my own thing. But now I'm at the point in my career, I decided to take my time in finding the right person, someone that I felt very comfortable with, someone that in my mind was very reminiscent of John Meadows with his programs and training and mindset. And I have decided to start working with John Jewett. You guys know John Jewett is an IFBB pro.
Now considering the fact that John Jewett is probably one of the smartest and most knowledgeable person in the industry right now, this is a good partnership. And this also shows that Sean is still thriving to get better, even at his current age. So this previous competitive season, that was a very long one for Sean Carida. He did the Olympia prep, then he did Prague Pro, and then he decided to do the Arnold as well. And if we look at his physique and how it progressed from the Olympia to the Arnold, he only got better. Now the Arnold Ohio this year, that just had too big of a lineup for a guy like Sean to be in the top 5. Regardless of how muscular and how dense he is, one just cannot ignore the size difference between him and a guy like Akeem Williams, who beat him at this past Arnold. Now Sean has been top 2 in the world in the 212 for the past couple of years, and if it just wasn't for Keon Pearson, he would have still be winning even beyond the age of 40 years old. Keon Pearson is just a whole different breed, but Sean is holding that 2nd place spot very strongly. Now Sean will go down without any shadow of a doubt as one of the legends of the game, considering where he started his journey and how much muscle he was able to pack on his 5'2" frame. So one of the best from Brazil, Ramondino, is looking way too good for his off-season. So this is him at 265 pounds, which is nearly 35 pounds heavier than his stage weight. And the man looks so big, so round, and so damn lean. So was it a matter of things going very wrong with Ramondino last year? Or did the competition just got that much better that he was unable to win the Arnold and he dropped down to 4th place at the Olympia last year? Well, him losing to Wesley at the Arnold, that was definitely due to him coming in kind of off. Now at the Olympia, he once again failed to peak right. But we cannot deny the fact that both these other guys, Mike Sommerfeld and Urs Leshinsky, they brought their 100%, an absolute A game last year. So the Olympia prep last year for Ramon, that was about 20 weeks long. But still he just did not display that same density that he normally has. The kind of density that he had at the Olympia back in 2022. But him skipping the Arnold this year, that has to be a game changer. Now it is very normal to lose all the hype after having just 1 or 2 bad showings. And this is exactly what happened to Ramondino, especially after the Olympia this year. Because he was the guy who was supposed to challenge Chris Bumstead, but he dropped down to 4th. Well, he has been looking crazy impressive throughout this offseason, and hopefully he's gonna bring his all-time best to the Olympia stage in 2025. So hit the thumbs up button if you liked the video and smash the subscribe button if you wanna come back for more. Thanks for watching.